It is, Bev. They're waiting for 24 hours to take their children across the border. Some are coming on foot, some are coming with cars. And they're waiting in the snow. It's been really heavy snow here. It's freezing temperatures. They're dragging their strollers with just basic belongings. I'm now sitting in an area that's being set up as warm places for mothers to bring their children, just have a space to think and recollect their thoughts. They're scared. They've just fled the conflict in Ukraine. They're looking for options. Some of them have some connections to move along, some don't. So it's a space where they can then get direction to the shelters or to transit routes, transportation to move further along. But generally, everyone's coming in a desperate state, really.
Yeah, and what sort of stories are you hearing from them?
I mean, I've been spending time on both the eastern and the northern borders. I've seen people elderly in wheelchairs that were just trying to get on a train. I've heard people that have paid. There's been incredible solidarity from the Romanian civil society in terms of giving them a little bit of cash to carry over. My family is hosting 11 people at the moment, and they were talking about no food being in the stores. Like, they're only allowed to buy a little bread in the morning with some basic supplies, and they're not allowed to withdraw money from the banks after a certain limit. So there's virtually, on the Ukrainian side, supplies are running out, medical supplies, emergency supplies are running out. On this side, they're coming and they're just looking for safety, really.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you that. I mean, many of them must be exhausted, disoriented and fairly vulnerable. Is safety their main aim, or are they looking for some sort of long-term place where they can perhaps live until this might all pass?
Bev, it's really difficult when you're coming out, when you've just dragged your children out of a conflict zone, to think of long term. Of course, they want to think of settling. There's some women that I've met in a shelter yesterday that were just looking for language courses. They were looking at using their skills in Romania. So there's definitely that interest to maybe integrate in the communities that are accepting them at the moment. But for now, people are looking for food. They're looking for protection. They've heard stories of trafficking. And Ukraine has always been a little bit vulnerable to this, even before the crisis. So we're trying to give them access to information, to know what the legal services are, giving them a bit of a space to think about their options as well.
It's a sort of horrifying thought to think that these vulnerable, susceptible people could be exploited. But let's talk about that possibility. You know, people are accepting lifts from strangers. What is the chances that kind of exploitation could become quite rife?
I mean, I think that's a real risk, and we're working with the local authorities to make sure that there's social protection services available, and we're working with the civil society and our partners on the ground to supplement the caseworkers that can do the validation of some of these services. And they're also doing spot checks in the host communities where they're being hosted, giving them access flyers with information of where they can call the hotlines if they're coming across anything suspicious, but also knowing that there's someone that can talk to them. We're now at this moment, there's a training that's being done for emergency psychosocial support for both the volunteers in the border as well as the emergency units provided by the local authorities, to have some of these perspectives in mind and be able to work with the volunteers as well as the people coming in terms of knowing options, knowing the rights, knowing what legal services they can access.
You know, in this kind of makeshift situation that you've created, how difficult is it, though, to set up proper systems to keep track of people and to vet people?
I mean, everyone crossing through the border points is having legal paperwork. And I think the part that's been a bit of a challenge is once you go after the border points is knowing where you can call. We're giving them SIMs with loaded internet so they know where to call, they know who to talk to. It's a very fluid situation. There's no perfect answers at the moment, but I think there's ways. Access to information is the first option. And we're also setting up child-friendly spaces next to the temporary shelters that are being set up. We're setting spaces for women where they can debrief, they can talk to a counselor, know what options they have.
Valentina, it's extraordinary times and an extraordinary effort by everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.